And good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website, our podcast, and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so that you can follow along. Tonight we start a new chapter. We will screen share and read the blue page, which will tell us some history on the chapter. Then the study will begin on page 122 at the beginning of the family afterward, and it will end on page 123 where it says structures will take years to complete. And does anybody other than me have announcements?
Hi family, my name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. Last night we had our group conscience. Thank you to everybody who showed up and participated. It was a great group conscience. We got some business taken care of. We also elected a new GSR and alternate GSR for this group, which we are very grateful for their service and commitment to the group. And I will be going to assembly this weekend as District 40 DCM. So the group will get not a GSR report from me, but we'll get a DCM report in exchange of that. So we'll let you know what's happening in the world of Alcoholics Anonymous, and we are glad that you are all here. And again, my name is Jamie, a very grateful recovered alcoholic, and welcome. Oh, you had an announcement. I'm sorry, Trish. Go ahead.
I did. Our next group conscience will be on March 17th, which is a little bit earlier than we normally have it, but we wanted it scheduled before the next assembly. And we will also be having a service workshop for our group on February 22nd at 3:30 in the afternoon Eastern time. That is a Saturday, and there we can go over all the positions that we have in our group that are open for people to jump in and help with and be of service. So if you're interested in getting involved in the group, mark that on your calendar and join us.
And if you don't want to get involved, we'll drag you in kicking and screaming because we get people involved. So it's all good. We're grateful to have everyone participate. So again, good evening, family. My name is Jamie, a very grateful recovered alcoholic, and welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted, and sharing is to not distract others or possibly even yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And just a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God and let the craziness of the day drift away, and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's bring those cute little monks in to do what the monks do so well. Enjoy your time with God, folks, and we will see you on the other side. And on a screen in front of you is our family's fog light prayer. If you would like to join us in it, please. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Heather.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Heather. I am your recovered alcoholic secretary. I have asked Larry to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and exactly what it means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Larry.
Hey, I'm Larry. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we're not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of alcoholics centers in the mind rather than the body, page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. CT with the Gerbil Fellowship page, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study group starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. CT, we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can I have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time? Welcome. And the recovered alcoholics? These are your potential sponsors. Is there anybody celebrating a milestone this week?
Larry, unmute, Larry. Unmute.
Yeah, I've got 14 years.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
That is amazing. Such a blessing. How'd you do it, Larry? One day at a time, right?
Tricia.
I'll make a milestone tomorrow.
How much, Susan?
9 years.
Oh, wow.
We'll have a chip ready for you next week.
If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo or PayPal, posted in the chat on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website, posted in the chat. Thank you. See you next week. Thank you for letting me be your secretary.
Thank you, Heather. Well done. Thanks for standing in tonight. From chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 10. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 11, and please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. And come on in, Susan.
Hello, my name is Susan. I'm an alcoholic. The short form of Tradition 11 is our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. The long form, our relations with the general public should be characterized by personal anonymity. We think AA ought to avoid sensational advertising. Our names and pictures as AA members ought not be broadcast, filmed, or publicly printed. Our public relations should be guided by the principle of attraction rather than promotion. There is never need to praise ourselves. We feel it better to let our friends recommend us. And think about it. When was the last time you seen an advertisement for AA? You might have seen a flyer at a local community center or the library, but you're unlikely to have ever seen an actual print, audio, or TV ad for these programs. And yet, AA alone estimated it had over 2 million members globally in 2018. As we look at this tradition, says that AA's public relations policy maintains that anonymity needs to be the focus, which is why the focus on attraction rather than promotion. So what does all this really mean? When it comes to marketing, for example, it wouldn't be able to use real members of any ads. It did them because it'd be violating the idea of keeping members anonymous. So what is actually is the reasoning behind this? The idea of attraction rather than promotion also means that the program focuses on changing people's lives one person at a time by helping them deal with their alcoholism, find sobriety, and maintain a sober life. By keeping this clear focus, the group automatically attracts people who see other alcoholics find sobriety and maintain a sober life. By keeping this clear focus, the group automatically attracts people who see other alcoholics have a better life. The idea is that a current alcoholic will look at someone who is recovered and think, I want what they have, so I'll do what they did. All right, it also have lost you. All right. And then using this idea of attraction rather than promotion, because to me the most important thing in my recovery journey is my own sobriety. However, there's coming times when I'm stable enough to maybe reach out to try to help another person. And I can use this idea of attraction rather than promotion in the way I act, the way I dress, the way I talk and treat others. It's something that people notice. And if I want to be an ambassador of how sobriety can be a positive life change, it should be reflected in these ways. Keeping to Tradition 11 also ensures that as you try to help others, either by being a sponsor or just being a supportive group member to newcomers, you are focusing on showing how AA has helped you on your journey instead of just trying to win people over. And Alcoholics Anonymous comes of age, as I said, I wanted to point this out, is we have seen anonymity as the protective mantle that covers our whole society. But it is more than protection. It has another dimension, a spiritual significance. And this leads to Tradition 12, which we covered next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Excellent, excellent. And now it's time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings which can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of those things we hear is You only work one step a year. Take your time with the steps. And Kenny is going to come in and tell us what it has to say on page 74 in paragraph 2. Kenny, welcome.
Okay, if that is so, this step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at first opportunity.
Thank you so much. Anybody care to speculate in their minds? You don't have to say it out loud. What step that might be? just had to say it.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight, we are starting a new chapter, so we will not have a recap, but we will have a blue page which we will share, and that will give us some history on the chapter. And then the study portion will begin on page 122 at the beginning of the chapter, The Family Afterward, and it will end on page 123, and that will be read by Linda when the time comes. And then after Linda has read that part, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back to the part where she read, and the answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions will simply be a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we are going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the question gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a depth way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comments, questions, and observations based on what we just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer to let you know that your time is up, or to please wrap it up at that point and cut your comments a little shorter.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example, with your sponsor, please don't turn this into the My Cat Died meeting. Please don't be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And how we arrived at this point, we did not just wake up and say, well, we're going to do the family afterward tonight. This is week 71 of a 94-week book study from beginning to end. So it roughly takes us a year and a half to go through the book in its entirety. As of last week, we have been doing this study for 5 years consistently. We are on our 3rd season, our 3rd time through the book in 5 years. And we start out on the title page and go through the preface, the forewords, the doctor's opinion, everything just like we do tonight. When we finish A Vision for You, we will not be done with the book, as many book studies often are. We will continue with a few weeks on Dr. Bob's Nightmare. Then we will do a couple of weeks on the traditions with the question format. And that will give us even a little more clarity to what our weekly traditionalist brings us on a regular basis. And then we will finish it off with a standalone night of the spiritual experience. As we go through the book study, we're directed by the asterisk on the pages to go to the spiritual experience 3 times. But we felt it was important to close out the book study with a standalone night of the spiritual experience, because hopefully as you go through this process of taking the steps, you will have a spiritual experience or awakening, and it's kind of important to recognize what that might see, look, smell like. So, and then when we're done, right back at the beginning the very next week. And so it has been a joy and honor to be on this journey with all of you. And please, by all means, feel free, if you like what we do, feel free to bring a frenemy, an ex-spouse, somebody that you really, really don't like and care for, because you just might save their lives. And even more importantly, you might save yours, and some relationships might heal. So that's enough out of me, and I am going to share the blue page, and Trish can kick us off, but she's got one more comment first.
I do. In our page and our reading, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. And again, please be aware that the first hour and a half of our meeting is recorded so that we can put it onto our website and onto our YouTube channel. So, our blue page. A little bit of background for the family afterward, and this chapter goes from page 122 to 135. This chapter is for the whole family. The alcoholic has found the program of Alcoholics Anonymous as a solution for his problems. The family has found the programs of Al-Anon, Alateen, and or Preteen as the solution for their problems. All is going well in their relationships within their respective fellowships and in the world in general, except for one of the most important places, and that is in the home. As was pointed out in the preceding chapter, when drinking ends, all the problems do not. Before proceeding with the study of the material in this chapter, go back to page 116 and begin reading at the middle of the page, and continue reading to the end of that chapter to refresh your thinking. Chapter 9, The Family Afterward, shows each family member how to apply the 12 steps to family life, and thereby bring the return of peace, harmony, and love to the family as well. Every member of Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon should be knowledgeable in the information contained in this chapter. It truly is a design for living.
Okay. And we could use one more hand, folks. Okay, and who's doing our reading tonight? Linda is. Good evening, Linda. Welcome.
Okay, The Family Afterwards, Chapter 9, page 122. Our women folk have suggested certain attitudes a wife may take with the husband who is recovering. Perhaps they created the impression that he is to be wrapped in cotton wool and placed on a pedestal. Successful readjustment means the opposite. All members of the family should meet upon the common ground of tolerance, understanding, and love. This involves a process of deflation. The alcoholic, his wife, his children, his in-laws, each one is likely to have fixed ideas about the family's attitude towards himself or herself. Each is interested in having his or her wishes respected. We find the more one member of the family demands that the others concede to him, the more resentful they become. This makes for discord and unhappiness. And why? It is not because each wants to play the lead. It is not each trying to arrange the family show to his liking. Is he not unconsciously trying to see what he can take from the family life rather than give? Cessation of drinking is but the first step away from a highly extreme abnormal condition. A doctor said to us, years of living with an alcoholic is almost sure to make any wife or child neurotic. The entire family is to some extent ill. Let families realize as they start their journey that all will not be fair weather. Each in his turn may be footsore, and may struggle. There will be alluring shortcuts and bypaths down to which they may wander and lose their way. Suppose we tell you some of the obstacles a family will meet. Suppose we suggest how they may be avoided, even converted to good use for others. The family of an alcoholic longs for the return of happiness and security. They remember when father was romantic, thoughtful, and successful. Today's life is measured against that of other years, and when it falls short, the family may be unhappy. Family confidence in dad is rising high. The good old days will soon be back, they think. Sometimes they demand that dad bring them back instantly. God, they believe, almost owes his recompensance on a long overdue account. But the head of the house has spent years in pulling down the structures of business, romance, friendship, health, and these things are now ruined or damaged. It will take time to clear away the wreck. Through all old buildings will eventually be replaced by finer ones. The new structures will take years to complete.
Thank you so much, Linda. Well done. And tonight's batting order, folks, will be Kenny and Lisa and Linda and Donald and Larry. So all of you can unmute. Gandalf, you need to unmute. And Kenny, we will kick off the questions with you. Our women folk have suggested what?
All women folk have suggested certain attitudes a wife may take with her husband who is recovering.
Thank you. And Seashell Pickle, welcome. What impression may they have created?
Perhaps they created the impression that he is to be wrapped in cotton wool and placed on a pedestal.
Thank you. And Miss Linda, successful adjustment means what?
Successful readjustment means the opposite.
Thank you. And Larry, all members should do what?
All members of the family should meet upon common ground of tolerance, understanding, and love.
Thank you.
And I'm coming in with the first of a few comments, and my comment here is, are these the promises of steps 9 and 10?
Thank you. And Gandalf, what process is involved?
This involves a process of deflation.
It does. It sucks all the air right out of the room. And Kenny, coming back to you, which members of the family will very likely have some fixed ideas?
The alcoholic, his wife, his children, his in-laws. Each one is likely to have fixed ideas about the family attitude towards him or herself.
Thank you. And Lisa, what is it each one wants?
Each is interested in having his or her wishes respected.
Thank you. Miss Linda, what have we found?
We find the more one member of the family demands that the others concede to him.
A little more. Other half a sentence.
Oh, I see. Okay. And the more resentful they become.
Thank you very much. And Scuba Pickle, the product of this is what?
This makes for discord and unhappiness.
And another comment, remember, selfishness and self-centeredness That, we think, is the root of our troubles, page 62.
And Donald, each one of us wants to play what? 2 sentences, please.
And why? It is not because each wants to play the lead.
Thank you. And Kenny, each is trying to do what?
Is it not each trying to arrange the family show to his liking?
Is this like the actor on page 60? Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way?
Lisa, he unconsciously is trying to do what?
Is he not unconsciously trying to seek what he can take from the family life rather than give?
The second paragraph is a simple restatement of the way many of us approach life as described on pages 60, 61, and 62.
And Linda, cessation of drinking is what?
The cessation of drinking is but the first step away from a highly strained, abnormal condition.
Thank you. And Larry, what did a doctor have to say about this? 2 sentences, please.
A doctor said to us, years of living with an alcoholic is almost sure to make any wife or child neurotic. The entire family is to some extent ill.
Thank you. And Donald, what should families realize?
The entire family is to some let families realize as they start their journey that all will not be fair weather.
Thank you. Kenny, each may what?
Each in his turn may be footsore and may struggle, dear.
Yep, that's it. Thank you. And Lisa, 2-part question. A, what may appear to be alluring? And B, where may they lead us?
There will be alluring shortcuts and bypaths down which they may wander and lose their way.
Thank you. And Miss Linda, what 2 things will the authors of this book tell us as we begin to study this chapter?
Suppose we tell you some of the obstacles a family will meet. Suppose we suggest how they may be avoided, even converted to good use for others.
Thank you. Larry, what does the family long for?
The family of an alcoholic longs for the return of happiness and security.
And Donald, what do they remember?
They remember when Father was romantic, thoughtful, and successful.
Kenny, 2-part question. A, how do they view life today? And B, what problem does that present?
Today's life is measured against the other years, and when it falls short, the family may be unhappy.
Thank you. Lisa, now that Dad is sober, how do members of the family feel?
Family confidence in Dad is rising high.
Thank you. Linda, what do they expect?
The good old days will soon be back, they think.
Thank you. Larry, what do they sometimes demand?
Sometimes they demand that Dad bring them back instantly.
Donald, who do they believe owes them a speedy return to the good old days?
God, they believe, almost owes this recompense on a long overdue account.
Thank you. Kenny, 2-part question. A, what has been coming apart for years? And B, they are now what?
But the head of the house has spent years pulling down the structure of business, romance, friendship, and health. These things are now ruined or damaged.
Thank you. Lisa, what will it take?
It will take time to clear away the wreck.
Thank you. And Miss Linda, you get the final question of the night, which is a two-parter. A, what will ultimately happen? And B, how soon will it happen?
The old buildings will eventually be replaced by finer ones. The new structures will take years to complete.
Thank you so much for your participation, everyone. And now you can all remute yourself, lower your hands. The meeting is now open for questions, observations, experience in this. And I know that there is no hiding in this, folks, because everyone, whether you happen to have been around and sober for a long time, or you have been in a relationship, not in a relationship, are in a relationship, have a family, don't have a family, we have some sort of experience with this. So please don't hide it all to yourself. Lisa, good evening. Come on in.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, reading this, it took me back to some things. I had so many expectations. I've been on both sides of this. And, expectations of the other person, and once they stop drinking, and, I didn't realize how ill we all were. Trying to play the lead and to arrange things and control things. And, I produced my own misery most of the time. Reacting even when I didn't think I did anything wrong. I still participated in it because I reacted to a lot of the bullshit. And boy, learning about this and reading these chapters and learning a different way, and I don't have to react. Doing this work, it's changing my perspective, how I look at things, and it's not, I don't really look at it like, why you're doing this to me, like I used to, because that's exactly where I was at. How could you do this to me? This person's sick, just like I am. And it's really, really tough to see when you're so close and stuck in it. And asking for help and bringing God in and bringing people in from the outside that can see it with a better perspective and help me find the path out of it. And I like that I'm coming out of it. I didn't realize how isolated I was, and and the things my daughter has been through, and we were all ill. We were all hurt by it. We all had different perspectives too, and it's so hard to see someone else's when you're so caught up in it all, and the self stuff. So, but I'm just real grateful, and boy, this is something. It's my life. And my reaction to it, and my perspective, and it's all about. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Glad to have you. Kenny, welcome, young man. Glad to have you tonight.
It's good to be here tonight. My experience has been it's been very profound. It's been great. I mean, getting sober, regaining the love and trust of my mother, my brother, my oldest son, his wife. It's been amazing, you know. My mother went down to Georgia to visit with my brother, and I got the keys to her apartment. There was nobody was worrying about me cleaning her out or anything. I go in, water plants, collect the mail, call her, read it to her, you know, and that's only through this fellowship. That's only through God, because I was a low bottom homeless bum. If it was nailed down, I would pry the nails out, sell the item, and sell the nails. You know, I was out of control when it came to my drinking and drugging, and it feels so wonderful to be human again. You know, I'm far from perfect, but I'm far from what I used to be. You know, providing I keep doing what you suggest, things are looking even better. You know, I'm even working now, and it's been years since I worked. Earn a paycheck, pay my bills. Look forward to paying my bills. You know, all of this has been wonderful. You know, I have a daughter-in-law who tells me she always wanted a father like me, and you know that just blows me away. Because when I talk with her, I'm attentive. I'm a better listener, and she enjoys talking to me. And my daughter's not back in my life, but God gave me her, and I'm very appreciative of that. You know, the young lady called me Papa Campbell, and I'm like, wow. You know, and that's all I got to share for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. We are glad you are with us. And Miss Linda, welcome.
I like the family afterwards. I like it. And I like what it says about, you know, anyone that has had years of living with an alcoholic is neurotic. And that's very true. That's very true. You know, you see a child that was raised with a family that the parents weren't an alcoholic, and you see the child that they were raised with a parent or both parents being an alcoholic. You know, it's totally different. It's a totally different mentality. Totally different. They think differently. And I had a conversation with someone, and they said, you know, they work in the field of alcoholism, but they was like, you know, my mother and father, they didn't drink. They had other issues, but they didn't drink and they didn't drug. And her conversation and her mindset was totally different, and the experiences that she had as a child was different than what I had. You know, so this is so true. This is so true. You know, and basically how your parents raise you, it molds you. You know, people say you're not a product of your environment, but you're definitely a product of your mother and your father, you know, how they raised you. You have their genes, you know, you have their DNA, you know, and that environment that you grew up in, that's all that you know. Until you get out into the world, you get into a 12-step program or therapy or whatever, and you find out different, you know. But I'm glad that I came here to AA, because it taught me and it showed me, you know, a different world and different life. And it told me you're going to look at things through new glasses. You're not going to be so narrow-minded. You're not going to be so short-sighted. You're going to be able to understand things. You're going to understand the world doesn't revolve around you. You're going to understand not to be on high alert and your guard up and not trusting people. You know, you're going to learn to be kind. You're going to learn not to be have the mentality, I'll get you before you get me. You know, all of that thinking, you know, because of my environment and how I was raised. You know, I was taught, you know, in AA, I can be a better parent. I can compliment my kids. I can encourage them. I can love them. I don't have to be verbally abusive to them. And I was a very mean parent. And I was a mean parent because my parents were mean to me. So it just trickled down. And I had to learn to not be mean, to have filters. I don't have to say everything that I think, and to be mindful of other people's feelings. Just be mindful of their feelings, because you never know how much you can hurt a child with your words. And I have a granddaughter, and I never hit her, not one time. I've had reasons to hit her, but I just didn't. And her mother doesn't hit her either. Her mother does not hit her. And my kids, they knew what the belt was. And I told one kid, I said, I'll just cut the buckle off so I don't hit you with the buckle, but I'm still going to keep this belt. And that's how I was raised. I couldn't curse at my parents. I couldn't yell and scream at my parents. I couldn't tell them what I wanted. The way kids are now, I could never do that. Never, ever do that. The way kids are now and how they talk today, I could never do that. Never. And how I raised my kids, they didn't disrespect anyone either. They may have acted out and this and that, but they knew. They had filters on their mouth. They knew not to curse an adult. They knew not to act like that. Even though my kids had their stuff, I just never was called to school. Your kid cursed me out. Your kid I never had that. Maybe they were laughing and being a clown, but I never had that. Because that was a big thing in my family. Big thing. And you can teach a child discipline, and you don't have to be abusive. And I learned that in AA. I learned so much better coping skills. I learned to be, to have compassion, to be kind, that I don't have to go after people, with my mouth. It's just not necessary. And I don't have to respond and be on the defensive, And I'm getting really good at that, too. Get really good at that. So I just wanted to say that, and this program has taught me a lot about myself, about my defects, and how I should have better relations with people, and definitely with my family.
Thank you, Linda. And Scuba Dude, come on in.
Hey, Jamie. I'm Larry. As some of you know, my kids growing up had a whole different view of me, and a lot of it had to do with because I hid a lot from them. I was a ordained minister during those years of their life, and my alcoholism I hid from them. Back then my alcoholism was sprees, and I would go away for 2 or 3 days, and conferences and stuff I would call them, and nobody really knew that I had a problem with alcoholism, which I had since college. And I was pretty good at hiding. I was really good at being a secret agent, actually. And so when me and my first wife divorced, my kids, they were starting college, and they had just gotten married. The last one had just gotten married, and that's when I decided to leave home. And I did. I left home, and I never looked back. They didn't hear from me for about 10, 11 years. And I just, I thought they were grown. I wasn't hurting anybody but myself. But their idea of their dad was this, ordained minister. So when I finally got back into when I got into Alcoholics Anonymous, and my life had gotten to such a depth of turmoil, I had a conception that getting sober, they should be proud of me, you know. Just getting sober, they should be proud of me. But see, their conception was, how come I'm not in the pulpit preaching? You know, how come I'm not back in church? How come I'm not, you know, where I was when I left? And you know, they were not pleased that all my time was with Alcoholics Anonymous and not in church. And they were just waiting for the next shoe to fall and me leave. And they were not friendly towards me at all. They did not accept me into their family unit. And I was hurt because I thought I was doing a really good job. I couldn't understand why they couldn't see my progress, and how come I could see my progress, they couldn't. And you know, these feelings were fighting one another, and it took 11.5 years before one of my children finally got into a program. It was a church program, but it was dealing with alcohol and drugs, that she started working with people like us. And she began to see people like me, and she began to have compassion and love for people like us. And I began to work in that program with her because she asked me to. And we worked together for about a year together, and we began to mend fences. Anyway, I'm looking at the time. Anyway, so Alcoholics Anonymous gave me the opportunity to mend the fence, but it took time. And I thought it should have took a lot shorter time, but it takes the time that it takes. And I'm so thankful for the time that it did take. And I have a great relationship with my children now and my grandchildren because of this program and because I stayed with it. That's all I got.
Thank you. And Terry, I see you smiling. You like the sound of that that alert. Trish, come on in. I thought it was very cool. Little jazzy.
Hi everybody, I'm Trish. I'm Trish, and I'm an alcoholic. And you know, when I came in, I definitely had fixed ideas about me and how everybody else should think about me. And I copped an attitude that other people who were young like I was were going to meetings, had their family at meetings, had their family coming and supporting them, and I never felt like I had the support of my family. The truth be told, I was living under the assumption that my parents didn't like the fact that I was and many years, decades later, when I finally talked to them about the fact that I was in AA, they were totally surprised. They remembered me talking about it at one point, and they took me not bringing it up again as I tried it, I didn't need it, life was good. And I spent all those years thinking, they're not talking to me about it, they must not support me, and just carried this huge resentment. I used to talk a lot when this meeting came up that it was amazing that despite not having a spiritual toolkit, how well my parents got the longer I was in the program. But the difference was I was the one growing, I was the one changing, and I was slowly seeing them through different eyes. Their period of growth and our acceptance with each other didn't come until I was able to sit down, have that conversation with them, make the amends needed for not allowing them in my life for so long. Definitely living in that selfishness and self-centeredness. I wanted their attention, I wanted their love, I wanted their approval, but I never asked for it. And I never explained to them why I needed it or why I deserved it. And then that line, is he not unconsciously trying to see what he can take from the family life instead of to give? I was always looking for the attention, always looking for the pats on the head and telling me how good I was doing. Not willing to put any time into the relationship, but expecting that they were going to be there for me. And then when they tried to be there for me, I would just push them away, because I felt it was none of their business. I did not drink under their roof very much. The ending of my drinking was not under their roof, so I justified in my own head that if they weren't there while I was doing it, I didn't harm them. They didn't know about my drinking. They're not going to support me. I'm not going to include them in my recovery. Yet I wanted them to keep giving. So no wonder the doctors think that living with us for years can make the family neurotic. My family was. And I am well aware that that was my fault and my doing because of my attitudes and my actions and my not letting them in. My not sharing with them who I was for years and pushing them away and then finally started letting them in a little bit, and all they knew was I was going out and I was talking to people and seeing people and doing things with people, and they didn't know who any of these people were. Of course they were worried and concerned. Which then goes down to the ending, the head of the house. Even though I wasn't the head of the house, I still spent years pulling down the family unit that we had. And it took time to clear away that wreckage. And fortunately, I had the time to start letting my parents back in. They're getting older. Mom's health isn't that great. And, I'm glad I had the chance to have that conversation with them before she got to the point where she wouldn't understand what the conversation was. And I know there's still work to do, and the biggest work for me is to continue letting them in. And now, rather than demanding that they're there for me, I can go and visit them, and I can be happy to be of service for them, seeing what can I do for them, rather than in my mind saying, what am I going to get out of this? I'm going up to visit. It's Christmas. How many presents am I getting? I'm going up for my birthday. Where's my gift? I keep and my focus is on what can I do for them, not what am I going to get out of it. Thanks.
Thanks, Trish. And folks, we have like 30 minutes left and no hands up. And if you don't put your hands up, I'm going to put on a meditation. Art, thank you. Come on in.
Good evening, my friends. My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And my lower hand isn't showing up, so I'm gonna leave it up.
It's okay. I took it down, so. Go ahead, Art.
Yeah, the last sentence that we read tonight is kind of what grabbed my attention. And it's, I've been Larry's share kind of reinforced that too. And that is the idea that this reconstruction is going to take a while. some take longer than others, but in my case, by the time I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had already ruined my family, and they weren't talking to me. And they weren't terribly receptive to the idea that I was getting sober. Their attitude was, okay, so what? Yeah. And so I had to make a concerted effort to show them a different me. And that took a long time. Because they remembered the broken promises. They remembered the guy who said he was going to be there at 6 o'clock and show up at 9, drunk. You know, the guy who was never available. And I had to make an effort to change that attitude in them. It wasn't easy. It took a very long time. I had to make an extra effort to do what I said I was going to do. And to show up when I said I was going to be there. And to be supportive of their issues. And not talk about me. Because I had been so indifferent to their issues or problems or needs for so long that I felt I had no right to expect that they should be interested in my needs or issues. And so gradually and eventually, I was able to prove myself. I was able to reestablish a relationship with the children that told me that they didn't want me for a daddy. I got to be present when some of my grandchildren were born. I got to be included in my grandchildren's weddings. I got to be included in the life of my oldest grandchild. And I remember visiting when she was just little. Yeah, I would take her on walks around the block. And she was such a curious little girl. She now has 2 children of her own who are in school already. But they have a special name for me. Those 2 great grandboys call me Grandpa Santa to them. And you know, it just warms my heart. And my time is up, so thank you.
Thank you, Art. I hated for the timer to go off. Brian, welcome, come on in.
Yeah, hello everyone, my name is Brian and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for having me tonight. Yeah, I don't know, last week after one of my calls, I just started reflecting on, how nice it is to have money. And I just thought back to like so many years when I was drinking, how I lived in survival mode and just constant stress and trying to figure out how I'm going to pay bills and shifting bills. But I can put my phone bill to next week because they won't shut it off then. And I mean, it was just crazy, absolutely crazy. And I mean, I did that for so long. I mean, one, just being bad with money, not understanding money, and then drinking, and with whatever little budgeting I did, a big portion of that budget was for alcohol, making sure I had money so I could go drink, so I could drink multiple times a week, spending $50 in a night, maybe $100 in a night, prioritizing just spending money on drinking. And I would get my paycheck on like a Friday and had burned most of it by Monday, and still I had 2 weeks to go. And it just was so crazy as I'm thinking back. So I'm like, how did I do this? How could I have done that for so long? I mean, and like I said, the stress, the constant stress of just hoping nothing popped up, hoping nothing happens. I wouldn't have to go to my parents and ask them for money. But of course, they're going to say, well, where'd your money? You just got paid, didn't you? And, I'd have to make up some BS or whatever. There were times my parents had a change jar where they would just add change to it, and I would take the change out of that when I fell short, and I would think, oh, it's just change. But I mean, it was like one of those Poland Spring water bottles, and it was pretty much full, and I pretty much emptied it out, just taking change here and there over a course of time, and it might have been $30, $60, and and I do still owe them that money, for sure. And I haven't made, my amends yet, but that's part of what I plan to do, when I make my amends to them, because that was their money. And they had saved that money up, to do whatever with it. And, I used it because I was irresponsible, because I prioritized drinking, because I, couldn't put, a limit on, like, all right, I'm only going to spend $20 tonight, and that's it, or whatever. And it definitely just, now that I have a family, my second daughter was born on December 30th. And, I can't imagine doing that now when I have to buy formula and diapers and clothes and take care of their needs and to, spend the amount of money. I mean, I don't really think about how much money I must have spent over the years, but I'm sure it's easily probably like $10,000 or more. And it's the past. I don't dwell on it. There's nothing I can do about it. But, it was just something I was reflecting on, and just the insanity of the way I was just blowing money and prioritizing alcohol over my real priorities. And just how I did that for so long. I mean, how did I live that way, And like I said, just constantly stressed, just always hoping something doesn't happen that was outside of maybe the $150 I had left, the $200 I had left, to last me 2 weeks. And that's driving to work and all different things, having to put gas in my car and everything else. Maybe I had a bill I had to pay. But, I'm very thankful to not be in that mode anymore, to be saving, to be conscientious of the money I spend, to not have alcohol as a priority. To not think to myself, okay, well, I have these things, but I have to put this much aside for, going out and drinking. It's just doesn't mean anything. But, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. So glad you are with us tonight. Pickle Chips, welcome, welcome. You're muted, Terry.
There it is. Pickled chips. Recovered alcoholic. I do like this chapter. I used to go to a meeting that was called the Family Afterward, and we had it once a month. We'd have one Al-Anon speaker and one AA speaker, and it was fabulous. It was very joyful. The part, I like 2 parts, and this is just in the first 2 pages. Each is interested in having his or her wishes respected. Well, I demanded my wishes be respected, because my husband at the time was was also alcoholic, and we both made demands of each other, which just caused more resentment. He didn't want me to get sober, and he was not. I'm sorry, the dog's barking at the light. He was not supportive, and I demanded it. I demanded support, and did I get it? Absolutely not. But Brian reminded me of me digging through the couch for change so that I could get some more beer, and taking cans to the machine that you recycled the cans and got little nickels back. So I'd have fistfuls of nickels, and I would get my beer first. And then I would try and find something that to feed the kids, because my ex was never around. So many a night they ate Raisin Bran for dinner, and I felt so guilty. But you know what? They liked Raisin Bran, so they didn't think anything of it. So that was Donald and Stephanie do too. So, you know, that was my own guilt, and I did make amends, and they kind of looked at me and went, okay, Mom. It's not like you cook dinner every night anyway. But, and the other part I liked, that we're all neurotic. I love that. The entire family is to some extent ill. Years of living with an alcoholic is almost sure to make any wife or child neurotic. Well, they had two parents, and I had a spouse, and it was all his fault, don't you know? But happily, I did stay sober against the obstacles that were thrown in my path, and I am so glad I stuck with it, because I wouldn't have survived that atmosphere, that neurotic place. And both my kids ended up being alcoholic. And I get to watch my son that I'm living with right now, I get to watch him raise his kids. And he's a terrific dad. And he's raising them as a sober parent. And I just love that. I'm so proud of that. So anyway, that's all I got. And I got a minute 19 to spare. Thanks for letting me share.
Oh, you don't want to hear the timer go off on you?
Nah. Let it go off on Donald.
There you go. I like how you do your little dance every time it goes off, though. Come on in, Gandalf.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Donald, aka Gandalf the Red, and you know, I look back on my years when my father was drinking, and how I was neurotic. Oh my gosh, that house was always in turmoil. But you know, my father never did stop drinking till the day he died. He was an alcoholic practicing. But you know, I don't have to live my life that way no more, and I'm so glad about it and stuff. But that's not what I really wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the top of page 123. Suppose we tell you some of the obstacles a family will meet. Suppose we suggest how they may be avoided, even converted to some good use for others. You know, it's like, ooh, hey, I want to know what can, you know, be done about something prior to. You know, that could constitute as some wisdom there. If you can learn something beforehand, oh my gosh, hey, We intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. Oh my gosh. Hey, we just don't do this no more. Or we don't do that. Oh, here, honey, have some flowers instead. Have some flowers instead of a drink. But, it does take time to heal. But it does, but time does heal all wounds. Maybe not back to the glory of the good old days, but it could even be better. So, I envy you guys because I don't get to hear the bells and whistles and stuff that going through the timer is presents itself. So, I don't have anything else to say this evening, so I'm not going to waste the time. God bless you guys.
Thank you, my friend. And we have 11 minutes left. A lot of time to fill, folks. Hi, Steph.
Hey there.
Welcome,
Okay.
welcome.
Stephanie, alcoholic, recovered alcoholic. I was just thinking, like many of you, we're hiding both sides of this fence. And it takes 100% transparency. I mean, if you come in copping an attitude, either side, because you're questioned about something, or you don't trust me, blah, 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 blah. I think we have to be prepared to be completely transparent and glad to do so. Because it took a long time of dishonesty and years after years of, not being able to believe anything that's said. So that's all I got, is just transparency. I think it's required. And gladly. I'll gladly show you my billfold. I'll gladly show you the car, how many miles I went. That's it.
Thank you, sister. Love you. You are in my prayers. I guess I'll go ahead and come in. And we still got time, folks. So, hi, family. My name is Jamie. Very grateful, recovered alcoholic. Again, how did they know how to write about my life 35 years before I was born? I grew up in untreated alcoholism. And so much of this behavior was ingrained into me. And where it talks about wanting these things back. In all of my relationships, most of my relationships from a young age, I mean, dating the first girls, there was always alcohol involved. So going back to something, what does that even look like? I don't know, because it's behavior that I never had in my life. Where it talks about the years of drinking would make anyone neurotic. You ever watch a child cower when a door gets slammed, when a book gets dropped, when somebody gets angry? They run and hide. That's the kind of environment that I grew up in, and not only is it the kind of environment that I grew up in, it's the kind of environment that I created in my own life. You know, one of the things that I really, really love that we do in our 4-step workshop when it gets to the sex inventory, which is not about the act of sex, but it's all about relationships, is that I very clearly get to look at how I drug innocent people, friends, family, children, through my own personal drama. Because don't you know, putting on a performance was my coping skill. It's no wonder that my daughter still struggles in having a relationship with me. I may have done irreparable damage in other people's lives. I'm grateful for when things heal. But that relationship with my daughter may never, ever recover. I can remember when she was just a baby, just a toddler, her mother and I were in an argument, and I lived at my mother-in-law's house. We lived at my mother-in-law's house. And you remember this distorted glass? I'll use the example of green because it was, and it looked like it was circles and bottles, and it was obscure so that you couldn't see through it. Well, I got locked out of the house, and I'm pounding on the door. And I was so drunk that I missed the door, and I hit the window, and that window shattered. And my daughter, even after all these years, is often quick to remind me that she still carries a scar on her arm from getting hit by that glass. See, in her life today, that's PTSD. What right do I have to take people emotional hostage, to want things on my terms just because I'm sober? We come into Alcoholics Anonymous and we sit here and we whine and complain about what everybody else in the world is doing and what they're not doing and so on and so forth, and taking their inventory, yet we forget to take ours, and we so oftentimes forget to look at ourselves in it and the harm that we created. And folks, I don't know about for you, I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous for the rest of the world to change. But I came to Alcoholics Anonymous for me to become changed through a set of spiritual practices. And when I allow that to happen in my life, my perception of the way the rest of the world is changes. I don't need to change anybody. Every human being on this planet, every person in my life is exactly the way they are supposed to be, whether I think so or not. I couldn't manage my own life. What on earth makes me think I can manage somebody else's? So it's important, and I'm just going to let the timer run out because I like that little saxophone sound. See, I like it. See, I can do a little thing with it, and you know, the timer doesn't mean that you have to stop abruptly, folks. It's just a guideline to be aware of the time that we're sharing. Here's what I know for sure and for certain. The sobriety is such a precious, precious commodity. And there are things that will be unsatisfactory circumstances of life on a daily basis. But I have a set of tools that are so spiritual in nature that give me coping skills to deal with life, no matter how it comes. And I have to allow my family and others to be exactly who they are. I've got a brother 19 years younger than me. absolutely hates me, despises me. Won't be in any family group chats that I'm in or anything else. That is not my pain to carry or to deal with. It's his. I have tried to make my amends the best that I possibly can. And you know what? I love him and forgive him so that he can grow. It's not up to me whether or not he ever forgives me or loves me. That is not the issue. But I certainly hope that all of my family members and everyone that I have ever harmed through my actions find a pathway to peace and harmony in their lives. Okay, and I sucked the life out of all of that. My apologies for abusing our time guideline. Hey, kick me out of my job. Go ahead, kick me out of my job, and you can come do this every week. So that'll be fine. Trish, you want to read us out?
Sure. From page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Be free from what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you. My apologies for all the coughing, folks. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for being part of this group, because you guys are primary purpose. It's not me, it's not Trish, but it's you guys. And we could not do this without you. We could show up and we could sit here and twiddle our thumbs and play tic-tac-toe, but we can't have the meeting without you, and we can't have this without your participation and your experience, strength, and hope. So we are extremely grateful. After a moment of silence, we will close out in our General Pickle style of virtually circling up. You know, folks, let us not forget that we have a disease that devastates lives and leaves broken human beings in its wake. It's not just about us. It is about all of those that we love. And we have an opportunity to help mend fences and heal. So after a moment of silence for those that are sick and suffering, please join me in the Lord's Prayer. Here's your moment. Thank you. Who will take us from shame to grace if we let him? Our Father,
Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in the heavens. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever.
Amen. Keep coming back. It works, but only if you work it. So work it because you're worth it.
I just wanted to say, let's say a prayer for William, because